the people coming past you have end violence here, and then on your sign it says death penalty, and that just surprises me. You don't look like a death penalty guy.
Yeah, actually a militant, progressive, liberal Democrat.
Right.
In many ways, but in some issues I am not. One of them is I'm a retired New York City teacher. For 22 years I never had enough textbooks in my classrooms.
Right.
I had kids do serious time that I would have trusted with my life. I got into trouble for protecting a friend of theirs. I've known kids who've done real serious time for small infractions, and yet a guy like a Bernie Madoff can actually cause the death of a lot of people by stealing their money the way he did, causing the collapse of various charities that are going to help a lot of others. It brought about a situation where some people committed suicide. I mean, the guy actually is a murderer when you get down to it. By indirect means, but the bottom line is those indirect means have serious consequences.
But you'd execute them.
Oh yeah, I would. I wouldn't take a lot of time to do it too. But I also feel that way about very violent psychopathic criminals too.
What do you mean you wouldn't take a long time?
No question of their guilt, then that's it. But I also believe in giving a death penalty for prosecutors who withhold evidence that ends up convicting innocent people.
Right.
So I mean, so it's not an easy line to walk.
What did you mean when you said you wouldn't waste a lot of time doing it? What is that?
Well, I don't think we ought to take 10 years of appeals, since that also drains the system too. I mean, if you know outright that the guy, you got the conviction's there because the evidence is solid and everything.
But you don't think they get it wrong sometimes?
Excuse me?
They don't get it wrong sometimes with the evidence.
I know. I think even National Public Radio and a lot of others are discussing with psychologists that coming to realize that a lot of the CEOs and CFOs and people who are willing to screw 30 or 40,000 people out of a job to get a $12 or $20 million parachute because their holdings of stock went up are actually psychopathic and sociopaths.
Right.
So yeah, I believe in holding them really accountable. And if it takes a death penalty to teach them a lesson, then I will do that.
Okay.
You don't want to elect me president, believe me. I'm an idealist who would probably cause a lot of people to bleed. But the bottom line is
a lot of people to bleed.
Yeah, I'm sure. But you know, all the great terrorist leaders of the past, like Mao, many of them were teachers. So.
But you're not a terrorist.
No, I'm not. But
who else would you make?
I do take my principles very seriously.
Yeah.
And I just know that I make a good watchdog. I watch out for the guys who abuse power like that. Because I'm familiar with the dark side. I know how it touched my life.
Right.
And that's why I wouldn't want to be in a position of power because I'm afraid that might come out of me, and I don't want that.
But who else would you make bleed? Who else would you make bleed?
Well, again, a lot of white-collar criminals. But you know, where do you draw the line on what kind of white-collar crime? My principal that I retired from the school that I retired just last year was charged with stealing $90,000 in school money that the kids raised.
Yeah.
And these are kids. When I ran a boxing program, I charged them $5 a semester because they got no money. All right.
And that's a horrible thing to do, but you wouldn't execute him.
Well, I'm not so sure. I can tell you other horror stories that went on there, like 3 girls getting pregnant under the age of 16, and the assistant principal having them getting abortions, paying for the abortions, and destroying all the evidence, and the girls recanting their stories. People would be amazed what goes on in the school system. They blame tenure. Well, tenure should be blamed really on principals and the other authorities because they're not doing their job. They're supposed to screen us before we get tenure. There are plenty of teachers I would have fired in an instant.
Okay.
So I have a lot of issues I talk about.
Yeah.
I know that the world's getting pretty desperate, and I think as we approach 9 billion people, more and more people are probably going to see this argument, unfortunately. Too bad we had to come to this. I've always been saying, you know, there have been alternatives for the last 40 years, but we've brought ourselves to this point. And if we get to a point where it's like 1920s in Germany, talk about the blood that's going to spill. It ain't going to be caused by me. It'll be people arresting people like me.
Right.
Yeah, far right.